So, the Beyonce Renaissance concert film experience has just debuted, and I wanted to give you guys my quick thoughts on it. Let's get started. All right, so Beyonce has debuted her Renaissance film concert experience, much like Taylor Swift did for the Eras Tour earlier this year. Actually, just a couple months ago, not earlier this year. So, just like my Eras video on Taylor Swift, this is not really a review so much as it like I saw. I am a huge Beyonce fan. I have been since OG Destiny's Child. And by that I mean when there was four of them. And I think they went through the four configuration twice. I feel like there was four with the original two members, and then they added another member to get back to four. Wait, no, that was when they added Michelle, and then she left, so then it was three. My point is that I've been a fan of Beyonce since way, way back in the mid 90s when Destiny's Child kind of like launched. So yeah, I've been a huge fan since that. I don't know if I'm an honorary Beehive member. I don't know like what the qualifications are to be in the Beehive. I'm not as intense as some of them are, but I am a Beyonce fan. So that being said, I was excited when I saw that she was also doing a film like Taylor Swift because as I sort of mentioned in that video, though I do live in a very like highly populated area, we don't have any major artists that really come to our area anymore because the stadiums that we do have, and we have a few, they're just not really big enough for artists like Beyonce. So the last time that I really saw a concert in my hometown was Destiny's Child. That was not the last time I saw a concert. That was just the last one I saw in my hometown. That was back in the 90s when they did their farewell tour. Was it the 90s? Maybe it was the early 2000s. Yeah, no, it couldn't have been the 90s. That's when Destiny's Child came out. So they did their farewell tour somewhere in like the mid 2000s. Anyway, my point is that I definitely wouldn't have been able to see Beyonce as the Renaissance tour in my city unless I decided to go probably to Richmond or DC. That would have probably been the closest places in order for me to see her in person. Not only that, I don't know if like going to see someone concert is my jam anymore. I've seen a few concerts and I feel like I like the experience of the concert from my house or for a comfortable seat, if you will. So anyway, now when I first saw this, I wasn't sure if I really wanted to see it because even though I do love Beyonce, and I do, I wasn't super in love with the Renaissance album when it first dropped. I remember listening to it when she first dropped it, and most of the time with any artist, especially if it's an artist that I listen to a lot, when they drop an album, there's usually like a handful of songs that immediately sort of speak to me that I like right off the bat, which is how it happened with this album. I listened to it and there was just like maybe like 3 to 4 songs that I really loved, and then the rest of the album I wasn't super vibing with, so I didn't reach for it again for a really long time. And then when I saw that she was doing this, I kind of looked up the set list because I wasn't really interested in seeing this if it was like primarily the Renaissance album. And when I saw the set list and that this was like literally a 3-hour concert, I was like, oh, so there's a lot of other stuff in here from her other bodies of work, so I should be fine. But I also decided it might be a good idea for me to revisit Renaissance, listen to it again to see if I had misjudged it. I mean, I do think that albums really deserve to be listened to a couple of times, and some albums do have to grow on you. So I really started listening to the album again, and there were definitely a few more songs that hit with me than the first time, but overall I would still say that I like maybe like half the album. And editing Diamond here. So I have been binging this album on repeat for the entire week. I started really listening to it hardcore, ironically, after I filmed this on Sunday, and I stand corrected. I slept on this album. This album is fire. There's only like 2 songs that, like, even though I've listened to them like lots of times, are still not my favorite, and those are ironically the slower songs for this dance album. But like the rest of this album can get it. So forget what I said. I friggin' love this album. Okay, okay, back to the video. I think that's fine. I think you can really love an artist and not love every single album that they put out. I feel like by maybe for me, it's pretty rare that I listen to an artist that I like and I love every single song. Like if that's like an album that's like fire to me when I listen to that. And that doesn't happen a lot, but that doesn't mean that I don't love the artist. It just means that, some albums speak to my soul more than others. So that being said, I decided that because there was a body of other work in here, I did want to go see it. Plus it's Beyonce and I did want to support her and to go see the film. Now, that being said, so I just wanted to kind of preface like my relationship with Beyonce, her music, and with this particular album to kind of put it into perspective for you before I went to go see seeing this in general. I mean, I love seeing Beyonce perform because she's such a really great performer and she put so much into it that I knew this was going to be fire, even if I didn't know or vibe with every single song that she was playing. So that being said, I want to kind of address probably what is going to be considered a negative critique. I wouldn't say that it's negative so much as it is observational. So let me just kind of explain. This is very different than the Errors film concert. So when you go see the Errors, it is 100% just her concert start to finish. She's taken out like the breaks in terms of like the intermission and like how much time it takes her to change into new outfits. So essentially that 3 hours is really just Taylor Swift performing. There's no behind the scenes footage, which I like because I like to just see the concert in its entirety like I would if I was there. Well, I mean, it would be slightly different if I was there. I mean, obviously you would have the breaks in time for her changes, and there was like an intermission I heard as well from people who saw the concert in person. So that being said, the Renaissance film concert is actually pretty much what Beyonce did for the Homecoming film concert, which is distributed by Netflix, which is still on Netflix, by the way, if you want to check it out, which is really good. So for Homecoming, that was a combination of the two performances that Beyonce did for Coachella, and it was behind the scenes footage of like putting together those two performances. There's a part of me that really likes that type of format because I love to see behind the scenes footage. I love to understand how things are made. I do like that format when you're watching a concert like at home, because then you get to see some of the concert and then you get to like understand like, okay, how did you make that part of it, or just like, what thought process went into like wanting to make it. So I feel like for like viewing something like that at home, it's great. But my caveat is that doing that sort of format for something that is designed to be watched like on the big screen, I don't really love it. And that's not because I don't like seeing behind the scenes. I love to see behind the scenes, which I'll get to in a minute. But I think what ends up happening for me is that it breaks up the rhythm and the energy of the concert. And, essentially she'll do a few songs and then she'll have some behind the scenes footage. She'll do a few songs. She'll do some behind the scenes footage. So for me, it's basically like, comparatively speaking, let's say you watch a movie that's 2 hours long and they add in an hour of behind the scenes footage. But instead of putting it like as one straight block, either before or after the movie, it's intercut with the movie. So basically you're watching like 5 to 8 minute scene, and then you have a 5 to 8 minute behind the scenes. And then you have a 5 to 8 minute behind the scenes, and then you go back to the movie. You know what I mean? Like, it would be pretty jarring to be able to like fully enjoy it in that regard. So I think for me, sorry about that. So for me, it's pretty jarring experience, and just in the sense that like every time you have that break to the behind the scenes, it's usually slower paced. It's a different tempo, not a different tempo. It's a different tone than like the show itself. You know what I mean? So when you have that, to me, it really breaks up the energy of it. So I don't really like that format for a film concert. I would have just preferred that it have been like 3 hours straight of just the concert, and in the same format that Taylor Swift had. And then I still wanted to see like the behind the scenes. So maybe like Beyonce could have released that hour, or however much the time the behind the scenes footage is, or even do more of it as like a separate production like on Netflix or something like that. So that's kind of like my immediate sort of takeaway from this, is that I really loved seeing her perform because the sets were amazing, and seeing the work that goes into it. I think I would just have preferred like seeing it on the big screen. I just kind of wanted to see the concert in that type of environment. So that's my 2 cents about that. That being said, like not being able to change that that's the format of it, what do I think of it? I really I do love the behind the scenes because I feel like Beyonce is a very private person. And that being said, she's very selective about what she decides to release about her life, which I have no problem with. It's her life. And I love to see behind that curtain. You know, I love to hear her talk because she's such an analytical and an intelligent person. And to hear her thought process and to see, you know, who she has to be in the different environments, you know, who she is with her family, who she has to be at work. I love that. I think it's incredibly fascinating and really like great to see someone who's had to develop so much strength because she works in a very, very difficult industry, which she acknowledges on several times in those behind the scenes footage. I love to see her with her kids because, again, she's a very deeply private person. So she doesn't really share a lot of that stuff with us. So when we see behind it, I'm just like, oh, it's so good to see her like in that sort of way. So I love that. And then the concert itself is just absolutely amazing. Like the costumes, the different sets that they have. I mean, and she did say that like 4 years went into making this particular tour, which is just insane. I guess I'm thinking because I feel like I think she announced the Renaissance tour pretty soon after the album, right? Maybe, yeah, because I think the album came out last year. Alexa, when did the Renaissance album from Beyonce come out?
Beyonce's album Renaissance was released on July 29th, 2022.
Yeah, so it came out last year. Alexa, when did the Renaissance tour from Beyonce start?
Good morning, Diamond. The Renaissance tour by Beyonce started on May 10th, 2023.
Yeah, so the album was released in July of 2022. And then the tour itself started in May, but they would have announced that probably a few months after, like, the album. But she said she'd been working on it for 4 years. So yeah, it must have been like in conjunction with like actually completing the album and like putting together the tour, which that sounds like so much work I can't even begin to fathom. But I love to understand what goes into making a tour. There's so many different moving parts and pieces, and it's a production that's picking up and moving to different cities. So I loved seeing the behind the scenes footage. I just would have liked it to be different. Like, I would have liked it not to be included with the concert. What I will say is because this is different from like the Eras and you're not getting like the full on concert, depending on what song it is, a lot of the songs are just like a few pieces of the song, like a few minutes before she moves on to the next song. And I think that's fine. I mean, because this is like the Renaissance tour, I do feel like she's focusing more on the Renaissance album songs, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? Like, so for instance, like if you get a medley of songs, most of those are not like from the Renaissance album. And then she'll like maybe play like a verse or two from a song that is from the Renaissance album, if that makes sense. So, which is fine. Like I said, I started really listening to the album again right before I went to go see this. So I was more familiar with the songs, but it's a very interesting experience when you go to see a concert by someone and you really like that artist, but you like the album that this most of the songs are based on, like you know some of them but you don't know a lot of the lyrics, you know what I mean? Like I know some of the choruses but like not all the lyrics. So I'm just kind of like bobbing my head just being like, yeah, this great. It kind of reminds me of years ago when my family was on vacation. We went to go see an Alicia Keys concert, and I really do like Alicia Keys, but at the time, the album that the concert was based on, I hadn't listened to it at all. So it was a really interesting experience because for me, I was experiencing all those songs that she was doing for the first time. And what ended up happening is I ended up like playing that entire album on repeat for like a solid 2 or 3 weeks. And for context, it's the As I Am album by Alicia Keys, which is one of my favorite albums from her. That's one of those albums where I literally do love every song in the album. So yeah, I think if you're like a Beyonce diehard fan, I think you're going to love this because you're going to get that inner cut of like behind the scenes footage, which is like that intimateness of like getting that inside look of not only how things are made, but just like her process and more into her, Beyonce herself. So I think if you're like a deep fan, you're going to love that. You're going to love seeing the concert like on the big screen as well. Now, I went to go see this in Dolby, which is typically my preferred format, but I'm not gonna lie, I don't know if it was just today. I don't know if it was the day, because technically was yesterday was the first day of my lady cycle. So I felt like the sound was booming, but like in my chair, and it was so booming, like it gave me a headache. It gave me a headache, and I was just like, is it too much boom? Is it too much bass? I couldn't decide if it was too much bass, or if I had, if I should have gone to see it in normal format. But I just love seeing things in Dolby. Like you get the, not just for the actual sound, but for the actual color and the picture too. So like it was crystal clear. It was perfect. It just gave me a little bit of a headache, but that was probably just because it was the first day of my lady cycle. But anyway, I really did love this from her. I think she's just such a hardworking person and an artist, and anybody who can sit here and do a tour for like a year straight and is incredible, because touring seems like it is such an incredibly difficult thing to do, just not just on you like mentally and physically, but especially to do that when you have a family, and to have to pick up and take your family with you and be very present with them as well as the audience. Like there's so many different things that you have to be able to do and to juggle to be a very good performer and an artist. And I think Beyonce's always been very good at doing all of those things, and it shows very much. So like I said, I really loved the concert. Clarify who was in the audience. I knew there would be a different demographic than the Taylor Swift Eras tour. So I will say that from my vantage point, it was mostly people of color, mostly black people. Makes sense because Beyonce is black herself. And then mostly women. I don't remember seeing a lot of men, but I kind of got there like 10 minutes before the show started, because the movie theater is literally like 2 minutes from my house. So I saw mostly women from like where I could see, because it's stadium seating. I will note too that I don't know if it was just this showtime in particular or what, but like when I went to go see Taylor Swift, I went to go see her on Friday night at 9:30, so it was pretty late, and that showtime was almost sold out. The only thing that was available was like the seats at the very front, which nobody, at least most people, do not like to willingly sit at those seats. But when I went to go see Beyonce, this was a 6 o'clock show on a Saturday, and it was maybe like 2/3 full. So, that's just an observation. I don't think that will be reflective of every single theater. That could just be reflective of the people in this area. Maybe some people wanted to see it later. I didn't check out all the show times, and it wasn't full comparison considering I went to go see Taylor Swift on Friday at 9 o'clock. But I just thought it was interesting that it wasn't like a sold out show. So, I don't know. Make of that what you will. Beyonce's getting the bag anyway. I mean, she gets paid whether or not you show up to the show. So just kind of wanted to throw out the demographic for that. So I would also say this was also a little bit of a tamer audience as well. Which I kind of like. Like, I get it. It's a concert film. People are going to sing. They want to dance. They want to get up. And if people want to do that, I don't have a problem with it at all, because it's stadium seating, so I'd still be able to see. But there was a guy to my left, like maybe it was a woman. I couldn't tell. It sounded like a guy. But so the first 20 minutes or so, like, of the concert film starting, he kept saying, "You go, B. Yeah, B." And when you see the film, like the first two songs are slow songs. They're like slow tempo songs. So, and not only that, like she's also not doing a dance number. She's just like standing and singing. So in my mind, I'm thinking she's not even like, she's performing, but she's not like doing like a high-end dance number. So like, can you shut the fuck up? That was what I was thinking in my mind. And I kept giving him the side eye, like, okay, could you be quiet? He stopped doing that after a few minutes. But yeah, it was it was kind of annoying. It just makes me laugh because he kept saying for her to go, and I'm just like, you're not even at, like, if she was doing a dance number, I could understand like why he was saying that, but I'm like, she's just singing "Dangerously in Love." I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm sorry, I don't know why it makes me laugh so much. All right, so those are my thoughts on the Renaissance film experience. All in all, I had a really good time. I thought it was a lot of fun. I was dancing, singing, and I would definitely go see another one of these from Beyonce if she tours again in the future. I know she said she was gonna, work on having some peace in the next era in her life. And to me, that sounds like a prolonged break. So we may not get a concert from her in a while. But I also have a lot of videos that I'm planning for this month. I have some more nail videos. I did do some shopping for Black Friday, so I got lots of nail polish. So I'm probably going to try and do like a lot of different shorts, maybe even some full length videos for some other brands outside of the ones that I do a lot, like Holo Taco. I got some stuff from like Light Slacker, Pop Polish. So you might be seeing a lot of shorts from me as well. So keep a lookout for that, as well as some main channel nail content. And then I do have some movie reviews that I'm going to do of some movies that are coming out this month. And then I also have a specific holiday movie that I want to sort of talk about, maybe two. So keep a lookout. I'm going to have a ton of content, hopefully that I can get all out and filmed this month. So anyway, yeah, keep a lookout for that. Well, I've had so much fun talking about Beyonce and this film experience, but that is my time, guys. Okay, catch you later. Bye.